Hello and welcome to Aviadev Insight Africa, the podcast dedicated to the world of African aviation with your host, John Howell, CEO and founder of Aviadev Africa. Today, we are going to visit the beautiful country of Namibia, and we are going to be previewing the upcoming Namibia Aviation and Connectivity Forum. Now, as many of you will know, the national airline Air Namibia ceased operations back in early 2021. However, Namibia is still very well connected through a variety of local, regional and international airlines, and like many destinations has seen a real strong tourism recovery during 2022. So our aim today is to understand the current aviation landscape in Namibia itself, discuss some exciting new developments in the industry, and of course, preview the upcoming forum taking place in November 22. Now, to do this, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by two guests today, Mr. Bisey Uirab, who is the CEO of Namibia Airports Company, and Mr. Verengai Ruswa, who is the project lead for the event itself. So welcome both of you to the podcast.
Thank you, John.
Hey, John.
Thank you for having us.
Well, it's great to be here and it's great to have you with us. So Bisey, let me come to you as a starting point. Can you give us a bit of an overview? We're sat here in October 2022. How is the Namibian aviation market? How would you describe it at the moment?
Thank you, John. The Namibian aviation market has been hard hit by COVID during the period 2019 to 2021, I must say. It has really brought the general aviation plus the big aviation to its knees, to the extent that at our airports, at the Namibia Airports Company, at some point we were doing less than 10% of our pre-COVID levels. It means that it has really affected us very badly. But I'm excited to share with you that we are on the upswing, that we are now doing more than 60% of the pre-COVID numbers. And I believe that over the next couple of months, by mid next year, we should have reached about the pre-COVID numbers and even exceed that. At the moment, we receive international flights from Europe through Eurowings. And then we also have Ethiopian Airlines coming to us. And of course, we have Qatar Airline coming, and also direct links to both Johannesburg, South Africa, and Luanda in Angola. So things are moving up, shaping well. And we are excited about the upcoming connectivity forum, and we really look forward to ensuring that the aviation sector becomes a significant role player in the broader transport sector in Namibia. As a country, Namibia has adopted transport and aviation, or rather logistics, at two key areas that will drive the economy of our country. Therefore, the aviation industry needs to come to the party, and the upcoming connectivity forum will really make sure that we are on the table when we talk about transport sector, when we talk about logistics sector in the country.
Yeah, that's a great overview to kick us off. And obviously, I think what I'm interested in is this recovery. When you were sat there at 10%, we're now at 60. You can see with the upcoming season some real growth and a lot of carriers returning and serving the destination. Is that beyond your expectations? And secondary to that is, only last week, we had the announcement that Airlink are actually investing in FlyNamibia, and there's a strategic partnership building there. So can you give us an idea of what that means for the country's connectivity and whether the growth trajectory is actually above expectations from your airport company perspective?
Yeah, no, the growth trajectory is pretty much in line with what we've expected. An announcement that was made by Airlink and FlyNamibia here came at the right time. We are now sure that connectivity to our country will improve significantly with that announcement. And we also remain confident that internally, FlyNamibia will also increase its destinations to the rest of the country. As you may know, Namibia is a vast country. Our towns and cities are sparsely located, and we need to get Namibians to becoming a flying nation. And this announcement really comes at the right time. It will connect us both internally, but also regionally and internationally. It opens up for Namibians to fly and to connect with international routes.
Perfect. And before I come to Verengai to talk about the actual forum itself, you've enlightened us to an extent about the airport's experience through COVID. Of course, all airports globally, and especially those in Africa, rely very heavily on passenger-related revenues. And all of those all but disappeared during COVID. Doing an activity like the Air Connectivity Forum is one of the things that has maybe come out of the end, where you say, we want to take control of our future connectivity. We don't want to take it for granted. But how else have you evolved your strategy as a result of COVID, and what is having an effect?
Thank you, John. As a result of the COVID pandemic, we have worked very closely with other players in the industry to up the numbers of travelers go through our airports. Specifically, we have worked with the tourism industry. We've participated in various platforms through the tourism industry, where we have been encouraging travelers to use our airports. We have given significant rebates and discounts to our airlines so that they can come to our airports to make it easier for them as well. And we did that also with other tenants at our respective airports to ensure that the troubles that came with COVID has hit us all. Therefore, it was absolutely necessary for us to give these rebates and this relief to our customers. We are also encouraging Namibians broadly through various platforms to start flying. As I've indicated, we are a huge country where driving is really taking its toll, both in terms of safety, but also the time lost. So we participate in various platforms, both public platforms, but also in private platforms. We have traveled together with other players all over the world to promote Namibia as a destination for tourism, but also for business. We have recently heard that there have been significant discoveries of oil in our country. There's also a big talk about green hydrogen developments in our country. Therefore, all these opportunities really open up opportunities for our airports to become busy, and we are really glad to receive both tourists, business travelers, but also those travelers who just want to come and visit their families and their relatives.
Yeah, amazing. I think the two things that stand out in terms of that is taking a collaborative approach and supporting each other during the difficult times is the only way forward. So it's great to hear that you're doing that. And also looking long term at some of the wider strategies and getting involved in stimulating that travel side. I mean, I always argue that as an airport company or as an airport, of course, you're like the bus stop, but you also have a strategic role to play, which is to encourage people to use that bus stop, to think about how are we going to access foreign markets, how are we going to see the world, and how are we going to encourage people to come in as well. So it's a two-way street, which is fantastic. So one of the activities that you're obviously doing and coming to you, Verengai, is in November, you'll be hosting the very first Namibia Aviation and Connectivity Forum. So tell us a little bit about how did the event come about and what does it aim to achieve?
Thank you, John. This initiative came about as a result of the recent events in the aviation industry, generally in the world, as well as specifically to Namibia, with the demise of Air Namibia and everything else that has been happening around us. We were forced as an industry and as a country to sit back down and ask ourselves where exactly we needed to go. So we decided to take a collaborative approach where we brought together every stakeholder who's involved in the aviation industry and say, let's create a platform where we define where we would like to go. We define what the aviation landscape is going to look like over the next few years. And we have a lot of lessons that we have learned out of what has happened in Namibia, as well as through COVID, everything else that has happened through COVID. We then decided as an industry that can we put together a platform where we crystallize these lessons, we agree on where we would like to go, and then we sit and figure out what it is about the aviation industry that we need to do differently so that we sit at the center of the discussions around economic development, not only in the region as well, in Namibia as well. We have a lot of advances, as Bisey has said, in our road network is perfect, as you have seen. There's been a significant investment in the maritime industry. There's been significant investment in the rail industry. But the discussion around aviation, exactly the role that aviation plays in this entire ecosystem, we have not been loud enough about it. So this forum seeks to bring all the stakeholders together and shout with a much more unified voice and a much louder voice to get to a point where we, as an industry, define the future of the aviation ecosystem, the future of the aviation landscape, not only in Namibia, we would like to make sure that we bring a first for the region. And there's a huge discussion around that as part of the national strategy in Namibia.
Yeah, I think it's that whole idea of it being a collaborative strategy for the whole country and seeing aviation's role. So often I'll speak to tourism authorities around the world and say, what role do you play? And, oh no, the airports deal with the airlines. I'm saying, but they're bringing your tourists. They're your biggest customer. You've got to understand and work together. And you've got to say to the airport, how can we support you to support the airlines? It shouldn't be with sat on the airport's shoulder. So I think these kind of forums can sensitize and educate and then build those relationships where there's a team Namibia approach and everything's done strategically as a country rather than it being done in silos without necessarily that communication. So I think you've crystallized very much what the purpose of the forum is. Dive a little bit deeper into some of the topics that are going to be discussed and some of the speakers that you've got confirmed for the event as well, because I'm sure people listening are really excited to hear a little bit more about that.
Thank you very much. It's important as well to highlight that the forum goes beyond just the event in November. We have been engaging with a lot of the stakeholders, both regionally and locally, to just make sure that this is not just yet another event that people go to and discuss a few topics and then they go about their way. The areas that we would like the forum to tackle have been split into two. So I'll first talk about the topics that we're going to be discussing at the main forum event from the 16th to the 18th of November. So the most exciting one, especially when you talk about African aviation, is what exactly is the future of African aviation? And we'd like to have that conversation seen through the eyes of those who have managed to get it right. So we have brought in people like Roger Foster, who have a success story to tell, and they're part of the panel that is going to be chaired by Derek Nsego. I think Derek Nsego is one of the Aviadev partners. He's been doing very good work around African aviation. We would like to get big success stories like Ethiopian Airways and other airlines that have done really well in the African aviation space, so that they can share the stories with us as Namibia, share the stories with other countries in the region, and we would see what lessons we'd like to glean from there. We are also going to talk about attracting, engaging, and skilling the future aviation professionals within Namibia and the region. What lessons can Namibia learn from our past, as well as what other countries in the region have done, and they've done differently? So we've brought together in this as panel discussions, we've brought together people in academia, people that are in aviation training. We have people from Signa, which is a very successful aviation school in Namibia. They're going to be participating in that conversation. With the founder of Girls Fly program, Refilo Ledaba, is one of the panelists who's going to be there. We will have our regulator, Madam Tosca Sem, who is going to actually be chairing that discussion. So we would like to see what exactly should we do differently to make sure that we create the right pipeline for aviation talent and aviation skill going forward. And we can talk about where we'd like to go as an industry, but if we have not created the right pipeline, we have not created the right skills to use internally, as well as to export to other countries if possible, we'll just be having a very futile discussion. We're also going to be talking about what it is that we need to change in terms of route development. We would like to create a platform that enables dedicated route development. We have speakers like Tim Harris from Consulum. So they've done very good work in Cape Town, and we would like to take those lessons so that we can create an ideal destination Namibia as well. We can have a collaborative approach to route development, which, while we have been doing it to a lesser extent, we need to make sure that we, in the future of aviation in Namibia, we have a very clear path as to how we develop routes, how we attract passengers and airlines into Namibia going forward. And one of the most exciting topics that we're going to be talking about will be regarding post-pandemic growth. As Bisey has said, we've seen some growth. We've seen some improvement compared to where we were this time last year, this time 2 years ago. But we're going to be asking ourselves, as one of the topics, what is it that we need to do differently so that we can achieve accelerated post-pandemic growth? And it shouldn't just be growth that is accidental because of the seasons and the tourists and the cabin fever that people have, but it should be something that's sustained. It should be something that is accessible to all players in the market. So we're going to be asking the question, how can we achieve it? What is it that we need to do differently? And we're also going to be asking, how can we go can we go it together? There are a number of topics that we're going to be discussing, quite a lot of exciting topics. We have people like Aaron Munetsi who are going to be speakers. We have people like Kanye Koza, the CEO of Swissport. We're excited to have very, very, very high quality speakers. From IATA, we have Dr. Alex Tanku. Locally, we have the CEO, our CEO, Bisey Uirab, will be talking about the success stories within the airport industry. We will have the CEO of our investment promotion board, Ms. Nangula Wanja, and a number of local and international speakers that are going to be participating. We're really excited about where the topics are going to lead us.
I think one of the key topics that we're also going to be looking at issues around regulations. And I think if you can review the current regulations and the laws that we have to see if there's a way that we can tweak this to encourage growth, to encourage more aviation activities taking place. I think that's one area that we'll be looking at. And again, we'll have some experts, both from the public service or public sector, but also from the private sector to really delve into that very important topic and see what laws and procedures and regulations need to be changed for us to encourage better activities in the aviation sector.
I think it all starts with that, doesn't it? It all starts with the right regulatory environment, and everything can be built on top of that. I think what I'd like to add to this is just what I've seen through the AviaDev experience from the event that we did in June this year, is that the complacency has gone from the industry in terms of, oh, you know, we'll be okay. There's growth every single year. The airlines will come to us. It will all be fine. It's a case of saying, we actually now have an opportunity to say, we're going to do this differently now. And the one thing that Africa has, that every country in Africa has, is they have an incredible amount of talented manpower, which is something that is lacking in other parts of the world. And it's a case of then getting that trained to the right level in the right technical aspects to then provide for that growth. What we wouldn't want is a growth of an industry being held back by a lack of qualified manpower when we have that on the ground in terms of the working population all across Africa. And I think the things that you say, you know, bringing in both that local expertise, but also those people who've built something. Obviously, when Tim Harris was CEO of Wesgro, we worked with him at AviaDev, and that what they have in terms of their route development committee is absolutely incredible. So there are so many lessons to be learned. The one other question though for you, Verengai, is you did say at the beginning, obviously you don't want this to simply be a talking shop where we all come, have a nice cup of coffee, and then we leave and say, see you next year. So you're trying to put in some, you're doing some working groups, I believe, and you want to have a white paper at the end of the session. Can you enlighten us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Thank you. So we have started already this project. Since we've started, we've put together working groups around very key aviation related topics that we feel as an industry are areas that we definitely need to have serious conversations on. Bisey has mentioned regulatory reforms. We will have discussions around route development in some of the working groups. We'll have discussions around cargo development, because we feel as Namibia, we're not doing enough to make sure that we promote movement of air cargo in the industry. We'll have discussions around what next after the demise of our airline. Where exactly do we want to go? So we've put together 9 working groups that bring together everybody within the industry, the government, the private sector, public enterprises, SOEs, where professionals and experts and people that have something to say on some of these topics sit together and identify what the challenges are, recommend actions. At the forum in November, they will present their respective working papers, and a combination of what's going to come out of these working groups and what's going to come out of the forum event itself is going to feed into a white paper that's going to come after the event. And that white paper, it is our hope that it will pave way for a national aviation strategy in Namibia. We do not want just to sit down and have a discussion like you've mentioned and let it go like that. We want to have a proper way of following up with actions that the government is going to buy into, the private sector is going to buy into, as well as everybody else who's in the aviation industry. The beauty of what we've done with the working groups, we haven't just focused on people that are in the industry itself. We have the financial services industry that we have brought in there. We have people in the tourism sector that are participating in the working group, so that we get a diverse view. We do not want to just see aviation through the lens of the people that have been in the aviation industry, because what we might be missing is what other industries see or fail to see in us, and we have opened the conversation for that. So we're excited to work with the working groups, and it's one thing that rarely happens in most industries, where everybody gets to speak to each other rather than speaking past each other. So we're quite excited to have the working groups, and we're quite excited to see what's going to come out in the white papers and possibly the national aviation strategy going forward.
Yeah, it's a commendable activity, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes we are guilty of being in an echo chamber where we're all preaching to the choir, and we all agree, but the people who are going to make the difference aren't necessarily sensitized or there in the room. So, you know, for change to happen, we've got to ask the difficult questions, and we've got to have those debates, you know, with people who are impacted differently. So I think that's great. So it sounds absolutely fantastic. If our listeners or our viewers want to know a little bit more and want to get involved in the forum itself, where do they go? Who do they connect with?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful team that's doing work on the ground. We have a website at namibiaaviationforum.com. There's quite a lot of content there. If somebody wants to register for the event, wants to sponsor, want to be part of the conversation, want to be part of the working group, they can get us through there. We also have a number of our Facebook pages, the Aviation Forum Facebook page, the Aviation Forum LinkedIn page, and a number of other social media places that they can reach out to us, or they can reach out to the team themselves through us, through myself, through the rest of the team that we're working with. We are always open to hear new ideas. The entire idea of what we're trying to achieve with this aviation forum is that we want to be very open to new ideas, to think differently, because the idea is to reimagine the industry. The idea is to reimagine the aviation landscape. So anybody who has something to say, we are more than willing to work with them. So our website is open, and our social media pages are very much open. We're looking forward to engaging with people regionally and in Namibia.
Fantastic. So those links both to Verengai's LinkedIn profile, to the website itself, will be in the show notes. So you can just open the show notes now and click through, and you can check out the website. And that's obviously got the full program on there, all the speakers, and it's being updated on a regular basis as we get closer to the event. So I'd like to say thank you to both of you for joining me today. Any final words from you, Bisey?
Thank you, John. We are really excited to have this event, and we invite all the key stakeholders to really participate in this event. We feel that this is a watershed event, and if you miss out on this one, the train might leave you behind. So please join us, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, so exciting, and such an amazing country. So we're really excited to see what comes out of it, and to obviously support it between now and the event happening next month as well. So for everybody out there, thank you for joining us. If you did enjoy the podcast, do share it with somebody in your network you think would benefit from having a listen and should be aware of the upcoming Namibia Aviation and Connectivity Forum. And we look forward to seeing you for the next episode very soon. Thank you all for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.